Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Global Compliance Panel's live webinar on Bulletproof 510K latest FDA proposed changes to the process. My name is Ricardo, and I am going to be your host today. On behalf of the Global Compliance Panel team, I would like to thank you for being part of this event. Today's webinar will be presented by Mr. David R. Dills. Mr. Dills, currently an independent quality, regulatory, and compliance consultant with an accomplished and proven track record, has more than 19 years of direct and hands-on experience in the FDA-regulated industry, with emphasis and focus on Class 1, 2, and 3 medical devices in vitro diagnostics, pharmaceuticals, and biologics operations in the areas of regulatory affairs, compliance, and QA systems. Mr. Dills has provided regulatory and compliance consultative services on behalf of global clients and subcontracted by third-party service providers, as well as providing independent services involving all stages of the product approval, submission, and commercialization process, clinical affairs auditing, etc. He has been previously affiliated with well-known medical device manufacturers with increasing responsibilities in the regulatory and quality arena. His background encompasses broad capabilities in quality systems, validation, regulatory affairs, compliance, and interfaces with FDA and international regulatory agencies. He strives to optimize business performance through proactive strategies to mitigate compliance exposure and represents companies to regulatory agencies and facilitates company decision-making by framing issues, presenting options, remediation, and objective business advice for manufacturers. We are honored to have such a distinguished person such as David R. Dills with us today to present this webinar. Before we begin, I would just like to inform you of the program outline for today's training session. This webinar is for 3 hours duration. First, David will take you to today's webinar, highlighting the areas that would be covered, and he would then share with you his presentation. Also, I'd just like to keep our attendees informed that we will have a short break, maybe an hour or almost 90 minutes into the session, wherein you could take a short break and then get back to the session once again. And if you do have any questions as well, do send me a chat message so that we can gather up all the questions and attend to all the gathered questions at the end, that is towards the Q&A session. So if any of our attendees do get disconnected from the conference or the teleconference as well, we request you to please follow the same procedure to join back again. Now that we are all ready to start, I request David to take it from here.
Thank you, Ricardo. I also would like to extend my warm welcome to our participants online today for our webinar for approximately 3 hours on how to construct and maintain a bulletproof 510K. And more importantly, as a special supplement to our presentation today, the most current and hot off the press, latest FDA proposed changes to the 510K program for 2011 and going forward. There has been some recent developments over the past 45 days, which the group may find to be quite interesting, since it will have an impact on the pre-market notification process. Stay tuned, and we're going to go into substantive details as to what these changes reference, as well as the impact to the 510K process. Again, welcome. As stated previously, this is a 3-hour primer and overview to the pre-market notification process, that being the 510K. The latest update to FDA's proposed changes to the program. Some of these changes absolutely will go live and be fully deployed and implemented for 2011, and I will identify and confirm those changes here today. Part of our other agenda-related items include the differences between the traditional, special, and abbreviated submissions, understanding substantial equivalence and how that's going to be applied, and also why that's going to be very important on behalf of you, the manufacturer, whether you're a Class 1, 2 device manufacturer and or in vitro diagnostics. We also will address who is required to submit the application to the agency, where to submit the 510K, and some of the other administrative responsibilities that you must conform to and adhere to in order to ensure success. And then certainly, when is and is not required if you are a device company, there are certain exemptions and exclusions which we'll briefly identify here today. Also, where to submit the 510Ks are going to be very important in terms of the administrative responsibilities. And I will certainly go into more examples and details as to why that will be extremely business critical on your behalf before you submit your application. Yes, there are some exemptions to the process and also additional special considerations that we'll identify. And certainly, a very critical item that we will expound on is how to locate a predicate device and go through the content and the appropriate and required format of your 510K process. Another term which we'll introduce you to and give the examples on is the de novo process, and certainly the expectations for possibly marketing a low-risk device. We certainly want to understand the potential and real impact of FDA's proposed changes to the 510K process and why manufacturers absolutely will need to pay attention. And then finally, we'll have adequate time for our Q&A and also FAQs, which I will redirect back to our audience as we proceed to our wrap-up and debrief. However, as alluded to from earlier, we will take a short break, probably within 90 minutes upon initiation of our presentation. Duration for this break will be anywhere from approximately 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll immediately resume our presentation. Contact information, very self-explanatory for those who should have any questions, inquiries, or requests for clarification on any of the materials and content to be presented herein today. And certainly contact Global Compliance Panel with any additional inquiries, and we will certainly follow up expeditiously to all of your requested information as well as other inquiries as deemed appropriate and necessary. Now, as we get started here today, a couple of things I would like to share with the group. This course is certainly designed and constructed for someone at the beginning as well as to the intermediate level of the 510K program. However, even for the veterans that we have online today on the 510K process, this is certainly going to be a good refresh and a nice overview of some of the key expectations, highlights, and your prescribed set of responsibilities in order to ensure that you're able to prepare for, construct, process, manage, handle, and submit your application to the agency for review and dispositioning. So it really will encompass all of our groups based on various areas of expertise or lack thereof, and I certainly hope this will provide a nice overview of the entire 510K process from pre to post. But nonetheless, we have major changes proposed for the 510K program, more than 60 proposals and changes from 2010. Today, you will be aware of the most recent changes that have been approved that will be fully implemented in 2011. Also, following the public comment period, CDRH said it will announce which recommendations it will implement as well as projected timelines for implementation. We certainly have timelines that we will disseminate to the group here today. And I will give you a brief historical snapshot and narrative behind CDRH's 510K working group, and also additional information regarding our medical device trade groups, including AVAMed. So stay tuned for the latest news and update in our presentation. First and foremost, supplemental background information. The submission, first and foremost, is not required if your device categorically has been exempt by the classification regulations in the respective 21 CFR parts as noted. In addition, most of our Class 1 devices certainly are going to be exempt per FDA, or your device obviously will require a PMA, which would be a life-supporting, life-sustaining device, which means a higher classification, that being a Class 3. Or your submission is not going to be required if your device was already legally distributed and in the supply chain by the same firm in the U.S. prior to that very famous date of May 28, 1976. And it has not been significantly changed since then. Or the rights to market a pre-amendment or a 510K cleared device have been acquired from another firm. More importantly, the device in question has not been